Before even drinking your tea, sit in silence for 5 minutes. Let the silence greet you. At first, your thoughts will rebel, but eventually they will quiet. In that quiet, notice what arises. Some mornings you will see fear, other mornings gratitude, some mornings nothing at all, and this too is an answer. That not every day must carry a weight. The benefit of silence is that it cleanses. Just as the body needs water to wash away dirt, the mind needs silence to wash away noise. Without silence, wisdom cannot enter. Without silence, love cannot deepen. Without silence, your own energy cannot recover. Ask yourself now, what do I hear in silence that I miss in noise? This question alone, if carried daily, will slowly change the way you live. But silence is not only about listening inward. It is also about guarding what you allow to come in. Here begins the second discipline, guarding the gate of your heart. Imagine your heart as your home. Who do you allow to enter it? If you left your door open all day, strangers would wander in. Some might bring gifts, but others might bring dirt, chaos, or even harm. In the same way, every emotion that arises is like a visitor knocking at your door. Anger knocks loudly. Resentment pounds with impatience. Jealousy slips in quietly, pretending to be harmless. And joy too, gratitude, love, they knock softly, waiting to be invited. But many people live with no discipline at this gate. They let every visitor walk in freely. Soon, the home becomes overcrowded, noisy, and unlivable. Emotional discipline is learning to pause at the door. When anger comes, you do not immediately say, "Enter, stay, take over my house." You pause. You ask, "Do you deserve space here?" This does not mean denying your feelings. It means discerning them. Feelings will always arise. You cannot stop the weather outside, but you can choose whether to open your door in the storm. In this way, you remain master of your own house. I remember a man who once trained with us for a short while. He was quick to anger. If someone looked at him wrongly, he snapped. If his tea was served cold, he raised his voice. One day during practice, another student accidentally bumped into him. He erupted, shouting in the hall. I asked him, "Why do you give every emotion the right to command you? Who is the master? You or your anger?" He looked down and said, "It happens too fast. I cannot control it." I replied, "You cannot stop the knock at the door, but you can stop yourself from opening it." With time, he began to see that a pause of even one breath could save him from days of regret. Think of your own relationships. How often are they damaged not by what was felt, but by what was said in the heat of an uncontrolled emotion? A careless word, a sharp tone, an angry reaction. These open wounds that silence alone cannot heal. But with discipline, with the courage to pause, to breathe, to guard your heart, you prevent the wound before it begins. This is emotional maturity. It does not come from suppressing feelings, but from mastering the space between feeling and action. That small space is the gate, and guarding it is one of the most powerful skills you can ever develop. Consider this now. The next time anger knocks at your door, what will you do? Will you open the door without question? Or will you pause and decide if this visitor deserves to enter? The answer to this question may shape not only your peace, but the peace of those around you. Once you begin guarding the gate of your heart, something subtle happens. Your energy changes, which brings us to the third lesson, the energy you carry. Long before you speak a single word, people already feel you. Your energy announces you. Some people enter a room and the air grows heavy, though they say nothing. Others arrive quietly, yet suddenly the atmosphere feels lighter, calmer. Have you noticed this? It is not magic. It is the result of the energy they carry inside. In Shaolin training, this truth is undeniable. A student who is restless inside disturbs the entire group, even without moving. His unsettled breath, his wandering focus, his impatience, they ripple outward. On the other hand, a student who is calm, centered, present, steadies the entire whole. His stillness radiates, and even the nervous become calmer in his presence. This is why we train not only the body, but also the energy within the body, because others will feel it long before they hear your words. In your life, think of the rooms you enter. What energy do you bring? Do you carry the chaos of your thoughts into your family? Do you bring the residue of anger from work into your home? Or do you bring peace, presence, steadiness? This matters more than you think. Words can deceive, but energy rarely lies. Children, especially, feel it immediately. You may tell a child you are fine, but if your energy is tense, they sense it and respond to it. Lovers feel it too. Friends sense it. Even strangers sense it. Your energy is like the fragrance of your being. You cannot hide it, but you can cultivate it. How do we cultivate energy? Begin with the breath. Before entering any space, pause for one breath. Let the body soften. Allow your face to relax. Choose the energy you wish to carry inside. This is not pretense. It is alignment, because when you breathe consciously, your energy shifts. You cannot carry storm energy if your breath is calm. You cannot radiate peace if your breath is shallow and broken. The breath is the switch of energy. I often tell students, your true introduction is not your name, not your title, not your words. Your true introduction is the energy you bring. Reflect now, what is your true introduction? When you enter, do others feel at ease or do they tense? Do they open or do they close? These reflections are not for judgment, but for awareness. Because the moment you are aware, you can choose. And when you begin to choose the energy you carry, your relationships transform. Conflicts soften, conversations deepen, presence grows. People may not know why, but they will be drawn to your company. Not because of what you say, but because of what you emanate. So silence teaches you to listen. Guarding your heart teaches you to choose. And cultivating your energy teaches you to give. These three together form the foundation of all higher practice. Without silence, you cannot hear yourself. Without discipline, you cannot protect yourself. Without energy management, you cannot share yourself. This is why those who have endured life's storms are called chosen. Not because life is easy for them, but because they have passed the tests that force one to grow in silence, discipline, and energy. You, too, have passed. That is why you are here. Now it is time to practice these three, not as abstract ideas, but as daily disciplines. 5 minutes of silence each morning. 1 breath of pause before opening the gate of your heart. 1 breath of intention before entering any room. Simple practices, yet they can transform everything. When water is disturbed, it turns cloudy. You cannot see your reflection in it, and you cannot see what lies beneath. But when it is left to settle, it clears, and suddenly everything hidden becomes visible. The mind is the same. When it is constantly stirred by worry, doubt, and endless thinking, life appears confusing. Decisions feel impossible. Relationships feel like puzzles with missing pieces. But when the mind is allowed to rest, the truth that was always there comes into focus. The difficulty is that most people do not know how to let the mind rest. They stir it endlessly, trying to force clarity by thinking harder, just as someone might stir muddy water, hoping it will clear faster. The more they stir, the cloudier it becomes. One student once came to me troubled by a decision he could not make. He had spent days and nights turning it over in his head, weighing every possibility, imagining every outcome. But the more he thought, the more confused he became. He asked me, "Master, how do I know the right choice?" I pointed to the pond outside our hall. The wind had just blown, and the surface was restless. I said, "Look now, can you see the bottom?" He shook his head. I told him, "Return in 1 hour." When he came back, the wind had stopped and the water was calm. He looked again and said, "Now I see clearly." I asked, "Did you do anything to make the water clear?" He said, "No. It became clear on its own when I stopped disturbing it." That was the answer he needed. Clarity of mind does not come from forcing. It comes from allowing. It comes from stepping back, breathing, letting the thoughts settle on their own. And when they settle, the right direction becomes visible. This is why in moments of confusion, it is wise not to rush. Instead of pushing harder, sit back. Instead of speaking quickly, breathe. Instead of making choices from agitation, allow yourself to arrive in stillness first. From stillness, decisions are guided not by fear, but by clarity. Think of this in your daily life. How often have you said something in the heat of confusion or acted when your thoughts were muddy, only to regret it later? And how often, when you waited, when you allowed the mind to calm, did the answer appear naturally? The practice is simple when confused. Stop stirring, take a walk, sit in silence, watch your breath, let your mind become like clear water. Then act. In relationships, this is especially powerful. Misunderstandings often happen because two people speak while their waters are stormy. But if even one person waits, breathes, and speaks from clarity, the conflict dissolves faster. And this leads us into the next wisdom harmony in 2 steps. Life is never walked alone. Every relationship, whether between parent and child, husband and wife, friends or colleagues, is like walking a path together. But often people forget this. One insists on walking too quickly, the other too slowly, and soon they are no longer walking together at all. True harmony is rhythm. It is balance. It is one step from you, one step from the other, again and again. If you only force your pace, you lose the other. If you only follow, you lose yourself. But if you move in rhythm, both arrive together, and the journey itself becomes beautiful. I saw this truth clearly when teaching partner drills in the hall. 2 students sparred, each talented in his own way. But one moved too fast, striking before the other was ready. The other moved too slowly, always trying to catch up. The result was chaos. Both grew frustrated, not because they lacked skill, but because they lacked rhythm. Then I asked them to slow down, to breathe, to match each other's pace. Something shifted. Suddenly, even their simplest movements looked graceful. There was no tension, no clash, only flow. This is the nature of harmony. When 2 energies move together, even ordinary steps feel extraordinary. Think about this in your closest relationships. Do you walk in rhythm with the people you love, or do you demand they move only at your speed? Do you allow them to take a step while you pause, or do you try to control the pace? Harmony does not mean always agreeing. It means listening. It means adjusting. It means giving space for another step without losing your own. When you practice this, conflicts soften. You discover that love is not about controlling the path, but about walking it together. Practical wisdom 4. This is simple. In your next disagreement, before speaking, ask yourself, am I forcing my pace, or am I listening for rhythm? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to slow down and wait for the other to catch up. Other times, it is to take the step forward first, so they are encouraged to move too. In this way, relationships become a dance rather than a struggle. But harmony in relationships is not sustained by big gestures alone. It is built on the discipline of small things. Shaolin discipline teaches this better than words. Students often expect greatness to come from great achievements, from big victories, from dramatic breakthroughs. But true discipline, the kind that transforms, is born in the smallest acts. Sweeping the hall each morning, folding the blanket with care, practicing a single movement 1,000 times. The broom teaches discipline as much as the staff. The act of tying one's shoes properly is as important as the strike of the fist. Because greatness is not built in sudden moments, but in the steady accumulation of small, mindful acts. One student once asked me, "Why must I sweep the same floor every morning? It is already clean." I told him, "The floor is not the only thing you are cleaning. You are sweeping your own mind." At first, he did not understand, but over time, he saw that in doing the small task with full attention, his mind grew sharper, his spirit calmer, his discipline stronger. The act itself was simple, but the result was profound. In daily life, this is no different. Many people wait for the big opportunity, the great moment, the perfect time to change. But life is built not on rare moments, but on daily habits. How you greet your partner in the morning, how you treat your body when no one is watching, how you handle small frustrations. These are the places where strength is formed. If you are careless in small things, you will be careless in greater things. If you are mindful in small things, you will carry mindfulness into all of life. Think of your relationships again. Do you show care only in big gestures, gifts, celebrations, promises, but neglect the daily acts? Or do you remember that love is built in the small things? A kind glance, a gentle touch, a thoughtful word, the discipline of consistency. The great strength of a bond is not tested in rare moments of crisis, but in daily acts of attention. So consider this, choose one small act today and perform it with full awareness. It could be making tea with calm attention. It could be listening to a loved one without distraction. It could be sweeping your space as if the act itself was sacred. In these small things, you are training discipline. And discipline is not a prison. It is the freedom of knowing that your strength is dependable, that your energy is steady, that your love is consistent. Now, let us tie these teachings together. Clear water teaches us that clarity is possible when we stop storing. Harmony in 2 steps shows us that relationships flourish when we respect rhythm. And the discipline of small things reminds us that greatness is not in the dramatic, but in the consistent. Together, they form a way of living that is balanced, mindful, and strong. Clarity allows you to see. Harmony allows you to walk together. Discipline allows you to keep walking, even when the path is long. These are not abstract philosophies, but living practices. And if you carry them daily, your life will slowly become light, your relationships steady, your inner strength unshakable. Consider this now. Where in your life is the water muddy? Where do you need to stop stirring? With whom are you walking out of rhythm? And how can you adjust your step? What small act can you practice today with full attention? These questions are not to burden you, but to guide you. They are the beginning of a path that leads to clarity, harmony, and strength. Life has a way of testing us, not in the moments when everything is clear and simple, but in those times when shadows gather around our path and we are forced to walk without the assurance of certainty. It is in those moments that Keynote 7 speaks to us most clearly, the power of stillness in the face of chaos. Many people think that action is always the solution, that movement equates to progress, that doing something, even if misguided, is better than doing nothing. But the truth is, stillness can be the most powerful force. Imagine a raging storm at sea. The waves crash, the winds howl, and the ship is tossed in every direction. The instinct of many would be to panic, to pull at every rope, to steer with frantic energy. Yet seasoned sailors know a deeper wisdom. Sometimes the only way to survive is not through frantic action, but through calm, measured stillness. They anchor themselves not in panic, but in presence. Likewise, when life's storms threaten to shake your very foundation, there is unmatched power in pausing, in breathing deeply, in refusing to let external chaos dictate your inner world. Stillness is not the absence of action, it is the mastery of response. The person who can stay still, who can allow the storm to pass without burning themselves out with frantic energy, gains an advantage over those who exhaust themselves fighting the uncontrollable. It is in stillness that clarity arrives. The mind, like a muddy glass of water, needs time for the sediment to settle so that the water becomes clear. When you are still, when you resist the urge to force outcomes, you create the space for truth to emerge. The world around you may scream for immediate action, for reactive behavior, but stillness reminds you that not every battle requires your immediate sword. Sometimes the strongest warrior is the one who can remain seated in the middle of chaos, unshaken, observing, waiting for the right moment. This is the art of discipline, the art of conserving your energy for the battles that truly matter, not scattering it on every fleeting challenge. As this wisdom takes root in your life, Keynote 8 emerges naturally. The truth that the company you keep shapes the direction of your life. For stillness is not just an internal practice. It is also affected by your external environment. You cannot maintain stillness in a room full of chaos. The voices, the attitudes, the energies of those around you seep into your being like water into soil. If you surround yourself with those who complain, who gossip, who live in constant noise, you will find your stillness stolen before you even realize it. But if you walk with those who value silence, who think before they act, who breathe deeply before they speak, their energy becomes a mirror to your own inner calm. It is a universal law. Your associations shape your direction. No matter how strong you think you are, the people you allow close to you have the power to elevate you or drain you. And the tragedy is that most people never stop to evaluate their circle. They tolerate energies that poison their minds, voices that weaken their spirit, companions who keep them bound to cycles of mediocrity. If you want to grow, you must be ruthless about the soil in which you plant yourself. Just as a gardener does not blame the flower for failing to bloom in poor soil, you cannot blame yourself for withering in the wrong environment. Growth requires nourishment, and nourishment comes from the company you keep. The strong recognize this and choose wisely. They do not keep people in their lives simply because of history, obligation, or fear of loneliness. They ask a deeper question. Does this person bring light into my life or darkness? Do they push me towards my higher self or pull me down into pettiness and despair? It is not about judgment, but about alignment. Not everyone can walk with you to the mountain top. Some are meant to walk only a short stretch of the valley, and you must have the courage to release them without bitterness, because the truth is, when you release those who no longer align with your destiny, you create space for those who are meant to lift you higher. The wrong company will make stillness impossible, will fill your heart with noise, will cloud your vision. But the right company will sharpen your clarity, inspire your spirit, and strengthen your resolve. And when you master stillness and choose your company with intention, Keynote 9 becomes your reality. The discovery that your true power is not in what you do, but in what you embody. 2. Many people measure their worth by their actions, by their accomplishments, by their constant hustle. But true strength is not found in endless doing. It is found in being. A lion does not need to roar to remind the jungle who it is. Its presence alone commands respect. Likewise, you do not need to over-explain, to prove, to demand recognition. When you embody confidence, when your energy radiates assurance and peace, the world responds to you without you having to force it. This is the essence of presence. It is why some walk into a room and immediately shift the atmosphere, while others struggle to be noticed even when shouting. Presence cannot be faked. It is the natural consequence of stillness and alignment. When your inner world is calm, when your circle supports your growth, Your presence carries a power that words cannot match. Think about the times you've met someone who barely spoke yet left a deep impression on you. Their energy communicated more than their words ever could. This is the power of embodiment. When you embody truth, when you embody self-respect, when you embody peace, you do not need to convince anyone of who you are. They feel it. They sense it. They respond to it. And this is where many people go wrong. They try to manufacture respect, to demand loyalty, to perform confidence. But performance always cracks under pressure. Embodiment, on the other hand, remains unshaken. It is not something you put on and take off. It is who you are. And the beautiful truth is this: when you embody peace, confidence, and authenticity, you attract people and opportunities that align with your essence. The right doors open because your presence carries the key. The wrong doors close because your energy no longer resonates with them. Life then becomes less about chasing and more about attracting. Less about striving and more about allowing. Less about proving and more about simply being. Stillness gives you the clarity. Choosing your company gives you the environment. Embodiment gives you the power. These three truths, woven together, create a foundation that no storm can shake, no betrayal can weaken, no season of difficulty can uproot. You become like a tree planted deeply by the rivers of wisdom, unmovable yet always growing, silent yet always strong. And those who encounter you will feel the difference. Not because you told them who you are, but because you embodied it in every step, every breath, every choice. There comes a time when a person must face the truth about themselves, about others, and about the way the world actually works. Many people spend years chasing shadows, chasing approval, and chasing validation from those who were never meant to give it. And in the chase, they forget their own essence. They forget the rhythm of their own heartbeat. And they forget the dignity they were born with. If you want to live without being defeated by people, if you want to walk with an energy that no insult can pierce, then you must learn how to walk alone without feeling lonely, how to hold your silence when your silence is heavier than words, and how to choose what deserves your energy and what does not. These are not simply strategies, they are states of being cultivated like a garden, refined over time until they become part of you. The 10th realization begins with understanding the extraordinary weight of silence. Most people underestimate silence. They think it is emptiness, absence, or lack. But in truth, silence is fullness. It is presence. It is an energy that demands respect without needing to ask for it. When a person insults you, mocks you, or provokes you, the world teaches you to retaliate with words, to defend yourself, to prove yourself right. But when you master silence, you no longer need to prove anything. You allow your stillness to unsettle them. You allow your lack of reaction to force them to face themselves. Silence is not weakness. It is controlled strength. It is choosing not to give them the food they crave, the reaction that validates their attempt to harm you. Think about it when a person shouts at you. Their power exists only if you respond with equal fire. But if you remain still, if you hold your center, their flames cannot touch you. Their words hit the surface and dissolve. This is why those who practice silence often carry an aura that feels untouchable. People are unsettled by someone who doesn't need to argue, who doesn't need to convince. It is the same reason wise people are feared in rooms full of noise. They have learned that silence speaks louder than 1,000 voices. Silence is not always external. It is also internal. You cannot master outward silence if inside you are restless, boiling, angry, replaying scenarios again and again. True silence is when the storm inside is calmed, when your thoughts no longer need to justify your worth to anyone. That is when insults bounce off, because deep down you already know who you are. And knowing who you are means no one else's definition of you can stick. When a lion walks through the forest, does it stop to respond to the barking of dogs? No, because the lion knows its identity. In the same way, silence is the roar of those who do not need to roar. The 11th realization is about the art of walking away. Many people confuse endurance with strength. They believe that staying in every argument, every toxic environment, every draining relationship proves they are resilient. But true strength is not about how much toxicity you can endure. It is about having the courage to walk away from what diminishes you, even when walking away feels like loss. Sometimes, the most powerful decision you can make is to leave, not because you are weak, but because you finally understand your value. Walking away is not running. It is not avoidance. It is alignment. It is declaring that your energy, your time, and your peace are too expensive to be wasted on situations that do not honor them. Think about it. If someone hands you poison and you refuse to drink it, are you weak or are you wise? Walking away is refusing poison in all its forms. Poisonous conversations, poisonous relationships, poisonous environments. Every step you take away from such places is a step back into your own life. But why do so many struggle to walk away? Because their ego whispers, stay and prove them wrong. Stay and show your worth. Stay until they regret mistreating you. Yet this ego-driven voice keeps you trapped, feeding the very dynamic that hurts you. When you walk away, you cut the chain. You deny them the ability to continue feeding on your energy. You stop making your dignity dependent on their recognition. Walking away is not giving up. It is giving yourself back to yourself. And there is something magnetic about a person who knows when to leave. People are drawn to those who set boundaries without announcing them. Those who walk away quietly create an energy that says, I cannot be held where I am not valued. Even those who hurt you feel the shift. They realize you will not play the game. They realize you cannot be manipulated into staying. And in that moment, your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. The 12th realization is perhaps the hardest T, knowing what is worthy of your energy and what is not. Human beings have limited energy. Every day, you are given a certain amount of attention, focus, and emotional fuel. Where you direct it determines the quality of your life. But most people scatter it everywhere. They fight battles that do not belong to them. They argue over things that do not matter. They exhaust themselves trying to win approval from those who were never meant to see them. This is why they feel tired, not because life is too heavy, but because they carry too many unnecessary weights. Discerning where to invest your energy requires wisdom. Not every invitation deserves your acceptance. Not every insult deserves your reply. Not every argument deserves your participation. You must ask yourself, does this situation bring me closer to peace, or does it drag me further into chaos? Does this person contribute to my growth, or do they drain me? If the answer is the latter, then why continue pouring your energy into it? It is like watering dead plants while living ones around you thirst. People often say, but if I don't respond, they'll think they won. Let them. Winning is not about proving them wrong. Winning is preserving your energy for the battles that matter. If you waste your strength fighting every petty conflict, you will have nothing left when the real challenges come. Wisdom is not fighting more, but fighting less and fighting only when it is necessary. This discernment also applies to love, to friendships, to opportunities. Not every open door leads to your destiny. Not every hand that reaches out deserves to hold yours. If you invest your energy recklessly, you will live in a constant state of depletion. But when you learn to withdraw from what drains you and invest in what nourishes you, your life begins to expand. You feel lighter, freer, more alive. because your energy flows only where it multiplies, not where it is wasted. So when you combine these three truths, silence, walking away, and discerning what deserves your energy, you step into a level of power most people never reach. You no longer live reactive to the world. You live responsive to your own center. You realize that not every battle is yours, every voice deserves a reply, and not every road deserves your steps. You learn that your greatest strength lies not in how loudly you can fight, but how deeply you can preserve your peace. The person who knows how to be silent when necessary, who knows when to leave without fear, and who knows what is worthy of their energy. This is the person who is undefeatable. This is the person who commands respect without asking for it. This is the person who walks through life with a lightness that others can feel, because they are no longer enslaved by the need to prove, to explain, to be understood. They have chosen the higher ground, and from that ground, no insult, no manipulation, no betrayal can truly touch them. Life has a way of teaching lessons in the most unexpected of ways, often when you believe you have already mastered certain aspects of yourself. It is in those moments when pride blinds your vision or when comfort lulls you into complacency that the deeper lessons appear. Keynote 13 begins with a simple but profound realization: if you do not consciously create your own inner discipline, life will create discipline for you in ways that are far harsher and less forgiving. To live without structure, without boundaries, without self-control is to invite chaos into every area of your existence. Think of the student who never studies until the night before the exam. Life will not bend its rules because of his negligence. The test will come regardless of his preparation, and the results will reveal the truth of his habits. Similarly, in relationships, if you do not cultivate patience, humility, and responsibility, conflict will expose the lack of discipline in your character. You can delay it, but you cannot avoid it. True discipline is not punishment, it is liberation. It frees you from the tyranny of impulses, from the sabotage of laziness, from the prison of emotional overreactions. A person without discipline becomes like a leaf in the wind, carried by external forces, never in control of where they land. But the disciplined one has roots unshakable even when the winds of life howl. They understand that comfort is temporary, but growth is eternal. They rise earlier not because it feels good, but because it strengthens their ability to lead themselves. They speak with restraint not because they lack opinions, but because they understand the power of words and the weight they carry. They hold themselves accountable, not waiting for others to correct them, but correcting themselves before mistakes grow into disasters. Discipline, therefore, is a form of deep respect, respect for one's potential, for one's future, and for the unseen ripple effects of one's actions. Without it, every opportunity that life offers slips through the cracks of unpreparedness. With it, even challenges become stepping stones, because the disciplined heart and mind know how to transform hardship into mastery. But there is another layer here, which Keynote 14 brings to the forefront. The energy you surround yourself with directly shapes the quality of your inner life. People often underestimate the influence of environment. They believe they can walk among the bitter, the envious, the selfish, and remain untouched. But energy is contagious. It is as subtle as the air you breathe and as powerful as the tide that shapes the shoreline. You cannot drink polluted water and expect health. Similarly, you cannot consistently absorb negativity and expect clarity of spirit. The old saying is true: show me your friends, and I will show you your future. If your circle thrives on gossip, your mind will be filled with suspicion. If your circle thrives on excuses, your actions will be delayed. If your circle thrives on envy, your gratitude will diminish. And yet, If your circle thrives on vision, discipline, and integrity, your character will rise to match it. Imagine walking into a room where everyone is deeply committed to self-growth, where conversations challenge you, where excellence is the standard and mediocrity is gently but firmly rejected. In such an environment, you cannot help but grow. You are compelled to rise, compelled to sharpen your thoughts, compelled to act with greater responsibility. The energy of the people around you amplifies your own hidden potential. This is why protecting your environment is not selfish, it is wise. It is not about rejecting others with disdain, but about carefully choosing where you invest your emotional and spiritual energy. Even a single person who carries light can elevate the mood of an entire room, and likewise, a single toxic presence can drain life out of you if you are not vigilant. To choose wisely whom you allow near your soul is an act of both love and discipline. When you protect your space, you protect your future. When you align with those who honor truth, you strengthen your own ability to honor it. And when you courageously walk away from those who poison your spirit, you declare that your destiny is too precious to be wasted on the smallness of envy, drama, or deceit. This naturally leads us into keynote 15, the undeniable truth that silence is one of the greatest strengths you can develop. Silence is not weakness. It is not surrender. Silence is the language of power because it resists the need for validation, resists the temptation of meaningless arguments, and creates space for clarity. In a world that is loud, where everyone feels compelled to voice their opinion, silence stands out as a mark of self-mastery. People expect you to react, to defend yourself, to explain yourself, to argue back. But when you choose silence, you reclaim control. You refuse to be pulled into battles that do not serve your growth. You refuse to waste energy proving yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Silence protects your energy, but it also unsettles those who seek to control you. Why? Because silence cannot be manipulated. It does not give away your fears or your strategies. It forces others to face themselves without your words to distract them. Consider this: when a person insults you, they are handing you an invitation to chaos. If you accept, you lower yourself to their level. But when you remain silent, you deny them the victory of seeing you rattled. You maintain your dignity. You demonstrate that their words cannot dictate your emotional state. This is not passive, it is active mastery. Silence also creates room for deep listening, and listening is one of the greatest strengths a human being can cultivate. In silence, you observe what others miss. You catch details, inconsistencies, truths hidden between the lines. While others speak endlessly, you are absorbing, analyzing, understanding. And when you finally choose to speak, your words carry weight because they are rooted in observation rather than impulse. This is why the most powerful people in history have known when to remain silent, when to wait, when to observe, and when to release words like arrows straight to the heart of the matter. But silence is not only outward, it is inward as well. The silence within you, the ability to quiet the storms of anxiety, the voices of doubt, the noise of external opinions, is what gives you strength. When you cultivate inner silence, you no longer seek external approval. You become anchored in self-awareness, in spiritual connection, in clarity. From this place, decisions are made with calm precision. Actions are taken with unwavering confidence, and life becomes less about reaction and more about creation. Outward silence without inward silence is incomplete. But when both align, you embody a rare kind of power that is unshakable. Taken together, discipline, energy, and silence are not separate keys. They are one continuous flow of inner mastery. Discipline shapes your actions, energy shapes your environment, and silence shapes your spirit. If you master these, you step into a life where external circumstances no longer control you, where negativity cannot chain you, and where your inner peace becomes unassailable. And in that state, you do not merely survive the chaos of life, you rise above it, like a mountain unmoved by the passing storm. Life will often place you in circumstances where the choices you make will echo longer than you can imagine. The 16th lesson is about understanding that the way you interpret the hardships you face will determine whether you emerge from them bitter or better. Every person at some point encounters pain, betrayal, loss, or disappointment. But what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck is not the event itself, but the narrative they attach to it. Imagine two people experiencing the same setback. One loses their job, the other also loses theirs. The first spirals into despair, telling themselves they are worthless, unlucky, doomed to fail. The second, while hurting, chooses to see the event as an opportunity to pivot, to refine their skills, to seek alignment with a deeper calling. Over time, one lives in resentment, while the other discovers strength they never imagined they had. The key lies in perception. What story are you telling yourself about your suffering? If you believe hardship came to destroy you, you'll resist it. But if you believe it came to refine you, you'll work with it. Life does not just happen to you, it happens for you. This shift in mindset changes your energy, your resilience, and ultimately your destiny. The stone that blocks one person becomes the stepping stone for another. The fire that burns one to ashes purifies another into gold. You must constantly ask, am I allowing my pain to close my heart, or am I allowing it to expand my wisdom? The 17th lesson teaches the importance of silence, patience, and timing. There are moments in life when the greatest strength lies not in action, but in restraint. The modern world glorifies quick reactions, immediate responses to insult, impulsive decisions when pressured, hasty words thrown in anger. But silence is not weakness, it is a reservoir of power. Think of a warrior who draws their sword at every insult. They exhaust themselves, they reveal their strategy, and they lose respect. But the warrior who holds their sword steady, who chooses the right moment, strikes with precision and effectiveness. Silence allows clarity. When you refrain from reacting in the heat of the moment, you give space for truth to surface, for emotions to settle, for wisdom to speak. Patience is the ability to endure without complaint, to trust the unfolding of life's timing even when you cannot see the full picture. Too many people destroy blessings by rushing them. They dig up the seed before it sprouts, frustrated that it hasn't yet grown, not realizing that growth was already happening beneath the surface. Life's rewards are not delivered on demand, they ripen when you are ready. Timing is everything. A fruit eaten too early is bitter. Eaten at the right time, it is sweet. In relationships, in business, in self-development, the ability to wait, to discern the right season, to resist the urge of instant gratification. This is what separates the wise from the foolish. When life seems silent, it is not always absent. Sometimes silence is the preparation. Sometimes waiting is the strategy. The ocean looks calm on the surface, but beneath, currents are moving powerfully. In the same way, your life may seem stagnant in moments of waiting, but hidden shifts are aligning. Trust that silence does not mean stagnation, and patience is not passivity. They are tools of mastery. The 18th lesson is perhaps one of the most challenging, but also the most liberating: letting go of control. Humans cling to certainty because uncertainty terrifies us. We want to control outcomes, control people, control the future. But the harder you grip, the more you realize that control is an illusion. You cannot dictate how others will act. You cannot bend reality to your expectations, and you cannot stop change. Yet the paradox is that true power comes from surrender. To surrender is not to give up. It is to release the illusion that you are the master of every detail. It is to do your best with full effort, but to release attachment to results. Imagine holding a bird in your hands, grip it too tightly and you harm it. Hold it too loosely and it flies away. But hold it with balance and it stays by choice. Life is the same.